Hi, everyone. Welcome back to English Unlimited podcast. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Jamie.
So today we are diving deep into a topic that I think everyone feels. It's this universal struggle,
Yeah.
whether you're trying to learn a language, which is why most of you are here, or hit a professional goal, or even just finish a book you started like 6 months ago.
It's that feeling of being busy all the time, but not actually moving forward.
Exactly. It's perpetual motion with no progress. We're talking about time. Specifically, how we can stop feeling so busy all the time, how to stop wasting it, and how to actually make real, consistent progress.
It's such a common feeling, isn't it? You get to the end of the day, you look back and you just think, okay, I was active, I was definitely stressed, but what did I do?
Yes. What did
Yeah.
I accomplish?
Yeah.
Maybe you plan to study for an hour.
Right. You blocked it out on your calendar. 1 hour of English study.
But then that hour just sort of vanished. It just evaporated into, I don't know, notifications, a quick check of your email.
Or just the sheer effort of trying to decide where to even begin. That can take 10 minutes right there.
That internal fight is so draining. You know what you should be doing, that productive thing that will move you forward.
But the phone is right there.
The phone is right there. Or the fridge. Or suddenly that one little chore you've ignored for weeks feels incredibly urgent.
It's the classic avoidance. So today we're going to dig into why that happens and, more importantly, how to tackle it head on using some really practical tools from behavioral science and motivation research.
Okay, so where do we start? I guess we have to define the enemy first.
I think so. And let's talk about what wasting time actually is, because it's not as simple as, fun versus work.
Right, so what's the definition we're working with?
In simple terms, to waste time is to use your time for something that is not important and not helpful for you. And that helpful part is key. It's not about your growth, your rest, or your purpose.
Okay, I want to pause on that for a second, because when people hear not helpful, I think their brain immediately jumps to no fun allowed.
Totally. And that's the biggest mistake.
So intentional fun, that's actually productive.
Absolutely. It's the most productive thing you could do sometimes. Think about it. If you plan to watch a funny show because you need to relax and switch off your brain, that is a goal.
You're recharging your battery?
You're recharging.
Yeah.
That is highly productive. But if you just sort of mindlessly scroll through videos for an hour and feel worse afterwards,
Then you're just pouring that time away.
exactly. The research we looked at had this great analogy for it.
The water bottle one. I love that.
Yeah. Time is like a bottle of water. You get a certain amount each day.
Right.
If you pour that water on the floor, you can't get it back later to drink it. It's just gone.
And that's what you're doing when you spend time on things that don't help you grow or learn or even genuinely rest. You're pouring your water on the floor.
And you know you've done it because of the feeling you get right after.
Yes, the feeling of regret.
That's the sign.
It's that awful little voice in your head that goes, why did I just do that for 40 minutes? I don't even remember what I was looking at.
That is your emotional test. The moment you feel that regret, you know you failed the intentionality test for that block of time. We've all been there.
So this whole deep dive is about how to stop pouring the water on the floor and, actually use it for something good.
Exactly. Which brings us to the biggest hurdle for every single learner.
The big one, the ultimate excuse.
I have no time to study.
We've all said it. I've said it.
Me too. But the psychological research is really clear on this. When we say, I have no time, what we're really expressing is a limiting belief.
It's what they call a fixed mindset, right?
It is. You're assuming your schedule is this solid, unchangeable block of concrete, and there are no gaps in it.
But that's never true. I mean, nobody's schedule is 100% efficient.
No one's. We all have these little pockets of time that we just don't see. Or we see them, but we fill them with, pouring water on the floor.
So we need a mindset shift, a fundamental one.
Yes. The real work starts when you stop saying, I have no time. You have to ban that phrase.
And what do you replace it with?
You replace it with a question. A powerful, open-ended question. How could I make language learning a priority?
Oh, I like that. Because the question itself assumes that it's possible.
It assumes the time is there somewhere. It puts you back in control. You're no longer a victim of your schedule.
So it reframes the problem. It's not a resource problem like I don't have enough time. It's an allocation problem.
Exactly. It becomes, where am I choosing to put my time right now, and how can I make a different choice?
And once you start asking that, you start finding those little nooks and crannies. You're not waiting for this magical 3-hour block of free time to just appear on your calendar.
Which, let's be honest,
It never does.
It never ever does.
It's about challenging that whole belief system. Okay, so before we dive into the actual toolkit for finding and using that time, we do have a very quick, very important favor to ask all of you listening.
Yes. If you're enjoying this conversation, if these ideas are already sparking something for you in your learning, please just take a second right now.
Hit that subscribe button for English Unlimited Podcasts. Give this episode a like.
And maybe share it with a friend. You know, that one friend who is always scrolling and always saying, ugh, I have no time to study English.
We all have that friend. Let's help them and ourselves change that story.
Totally.
Okay, so the toolkit. Let's unpack it. We've accepted that these huge study blocks are mostly a fantasy. So how do we actually use the time we do have more effectively?
The secret is all about small moments, focusing on these tiny, high-impact windows of time.
And this is where two really powerful concepts come into play.
Yes, microlearning and what we can call pocket time. These are, I think, the most important strategies for anyone trying to learn something in the modern world.
Let's start with microlearning. It sounds a bit jargony, a bit technical.
It does, but the idea is so simple.
Break it down for us.
Microlearning is just breaking down information into really small, compact little lessons. The key is that they're short, usually less than 20 minutes.
And often much shorter, right? Like 5 or 10 minutes.
Exactly. And they are super focused. They are designed to teach you one single learning objective, just one thing.
So instead of me trying to tackle an entire chapter on, I don't know, English modal verbs.
Which is huge and terrifying.
Right. Instead, I would just watch a tiny video or do a quick quiz on the difference between must and have to. That's it.
That's it. That is a perfect example of microlearning. And the whole reason it's designed that way is to reduce something called learner fatigue.
And that's tied into the other term, cognitive load.
Yes, exactly. Think of your brain's working memory like the RAM on a computer. If you try to open too many big programs at once, everything slows down and crashes.
And what does that crash feel like when you're studying?
It feels like you've hit a wall.
Yeah.
You feel slow, you get irritable, you start making silly mistakes on things you actually know.
That heavy, bogged down feeling.
Yes. That is your brain screaming, too much information too fast. That's high cognitive load.
But microlearning avoids that. It keeps the load really low and manageable.
It does. By giving you these little bite-sized pieces, your brain can actually process the information properly and file it away in your long-term memory.
And there's actual data on this, right? It's not just a nice idea.
Oh, the data is really compelling. The research we looked at showed that using this approach can lead to a huge increase in exam pass rates. I think it was up to an 18% improvement.
18%, that is massive.
It's massive. And it's just from changing the structure of how you learn, just from respecting the limits of your brain.
So you're not studying more, you're just studying smarter in smaller chunks.
Precisely. Which brings us to the next logical question. Okay, where do I find the time for all these little chunks of learning?
And that is pocket time.
That's pocket time. And we have another analogy here.
From water to coins. I like it.
Yeah. So we all wish we had big coins, right? Those big 1-hour gold coins we can spend on deep, focused study.
The dream.
It's the dream. But in reality, our pockets are full of small change, little coins. 5 minutes here while you wait for the bus, 7 minutes there while the kettle boils, 10 minutes on the train.
And most of us, what do we do with those small coins?
We'll throw them away.
We do. We pull out our phones and we just scroll. We throw those minutes into the social media void.
We absolutely do. But if you start thinking of them as valuable coins, and you decide to spend them intentionally on a micro-learning task, they add up so fast. Suddenly, all that small change has bought you something really big, like noticeable progress in your English.
So this is about weaving these tiny study sessions into the fabric of your existing day.
Yes, seamlessly. You have to look for those moments that are, unavoidable waiting periods.
Give us some more examples, like real-life things a learner could do today.
Okay, so you're waiting for the bus. Instead of scrolling, you open your flashcard app and review 3 new words.
Okay.
Just 3.
Manageable.
You're washing the dishes. Put on a podcast like this one and actively listen for 5 minutes. Just 5. You're waiting for your coffee to brew. Read 5 lines of a story in English on your phone.
It's about attaching the new, tiny learning habit to something you already do anyway.
That's the key. It's called anchoring, which we'll talk about more later. You link the micro task to an existing part of your routine, and eventually it just becomes automatic.
It makes so much sense. I remember hearing about someone who learned a whole new language just by studying for the 10 minutes they were on the train every single day.
That's the power of it. That small, consistent effort is so much more valuable than one big, heroic 3-hour study session once a month.
Because the friction is so low, study for 2 hours feels heavy, but review 3 words.
Anyone can do that. There's no excuse.
Okay, so that handles the small moments. But what if you do have a bigger block of time, say an hour or 90 minutes? How do you protect your focus in that window?
Now we get to a classic, the Pomodoro technique,
The tomato timer.
the famous tomato timer. It was developed back in the late 80s by Francesco Cirulo, and it's all about managing your energy and focus, not just your time.
So what's the basic cycle for anyone who hasn't heard of it?
The core idea is that you work in short, intense, focused sprints. Each sprint is called a Pomodoro, and it's typically 25 minutes long.
25 minutes of pure, uninterrupted focus.
Uninterrupted is the key word. After that 25 minutes, you take a short break, maybe 5 or 10 minutes.
And what do you do in the break?
Something completely different. Get up, stretch, get some water. Don't check your email. You need to let your brain rest.
And then you repeat that cycle.
You do. After you've done 4 of those Pomodoro cycles, you then earn a longer break, maybe 20 or 30 minutes.
Okay, now the one rule that I know people struggle with, but the sources say is absolutely critical,
The tough one.
is that a Pomodoro is indivisible. You cannot break it.
That is the heart of the technique. You commit to that full 25 minutes, no distractions.
But what happens if you get interrupted? A text message, an email, your dog starts barking.
You have 2 choices. If it's a small distraction like a thought, you quickly write it down and promise to deal with it during the break.
Okay.
But if it's a real interruption you have to deal with, like the doorbell rings,
Yeah.
then you must abandon the entire Pomodoro.
Wait, really? Even if I'm like 24 minutes in and I was being super productive, I have to just throw that work away.
You have to discard that unit of work.
Yes.
It feels harsh, I know.
It feels incredibly discouraging.
Yeah.
Why is that rule so strict?
Because the strictness is what makes it powerful.
Yeah.
It does 2 things. First, it forces you to become ruthless about protecting your 25 minutes. You'll start turning off notifications and telling people not to disturb you.
It makes the time feel more sacred.
It does. And second, it trains your brain. It sends a clear message. If you break your commitment to focus, the effort doesn't count. It elevates the value of that focused time.
So it's a psychological trick to build your attention muscle.
A very effective one. And there's research on this. A big meta-analysis found that this kind of structured break system is way better than just taking breaks whenever you feel like it.
Really?
Yeah, it led to better focus, less mental fatigue, and better performance on tasks over time. The structure helps us overcome our natural tendency to just drift off.
Okay, so we've found the time in our pockets, and we've learned how to protect the bigger blocks of time. Now for what I think is the hardest part of all.
The starting.
Yes. How do you actually start? How do you overcome that friction, that resistance you feel when you're tired and you just don't want to?
This is the perfect time to bring in the tiny habits method. This comes from a researcher at Stanford named B.J. Fogg, and his whole life's work is about making behavior change easy.
And he has a formula for it, right?
He does. It's called the Fogg behavior model, and it's beautifully simple. It says, behavior B happens when motivation, M, ability A, and a prompt P all come together at the same moment.
So B equals MAP. MAP.
B may P. And for a behavior to happen, you need all 3. A prompt to do it, the motivation to do it, and the ability to do it.
Seems logical. But where do most of us go wrong with this?
We rely almost entirely on M motivation.
We wait until we feel like it.
We wait to feel inspired. We wait for that big burst of energy. But Fogg's research shows that motivation is completely unreliable.
He calls it a wave, doesn't he?
He does. It's like a big wave. It comes in these huge, powerful spikes, but then it disappears just as quickly.
That's so true. You listen to an inspiring talk and you feel like you can conquer the world for about 3 hours.
And then you wake up the next morning and the wave is gone. The motivation has vanished.
So motivation is good for like a big one-time action?
Exactly. It's great for doing something hard that you only have to do once, like signing up for the exam or buying the textbook, but it is terrible for creating a repeated daily habit.
So if motivation is the unreliable part of the equation, what should we be focusing on?
We should focus on A, ability. Fogg says this is the easiest lever to pull. You don't try to pump up your motivation. You just make the task easier to do.
And when you say easier, you mean Really, really easy.
I mean, ridiculously easy. He calls them tiny habits. You shrink the behavior down until it's so small it takes like 30 seconds to do,
30
or
seconds?
less. The goal is to make it so tiny that you can't possibly say no. There's no emotional resistance to it, even on your worst, most tired day,
So instead of the goal being study English for 30 minutes,
which feels like climbing a mountain on some days.
it becomes open my English textbook to the right page.
Yes. Or read one sentence in my English book. Or do one flashcard. That's it.
It seems too small to make a difference.
But that's not the point. The point isn't to learn everything in those 30 seconds. The point is to build the habit of starting.
So the win is just in the action of starting.
The win is starting. Because once you start, momentum often takes over. You might read one sentence and then think, oh, I'll just read the whole paragraph. But the initial goal was just one sentence.
That makes so much sense. You're lowering the bar to get over what he calls the action line.
Exactly. If a task is hard, you need massive motivation to do it. But if you make the task incredibly easy, you can do it even when you have almost zero motivation.
Okay, so you have the tiny behavior. What about the P? The prompt. How do you remember to do it?
This is the final piece.
Yeah.
Use anchoring. The prompt needs to be something that already exists in your life.
You connect the new habit to an old one.
A strong, solid habit that you do every day without thinking, like brushing your teeth or making coffee or putting on your shoes.
And the formula is super specific.
It is. It's after my existing anchor habit, I will make tiny behavior.
So after I pour my morning coffee, I will review one English flashcard.
Perfect. The coffee is the anchor. It's the prompt. You don't need an alarm or a to-do list. The old habit triggers the new one automatically.
Yeah.
Because the new habit is so tiny, there's no friction. You just do it.
Wow. Okay, so that whole toolkit, micro-learning, pocket time, Pomodoro, and tiny habits, it's a pretty powerful system for getting started and staying focused.
It is. But even with the best systems, if you push too hard for too long, you risk hitting a very serious wall.
Right. We've talked about how to do the work. Now we need to talk about why we sometimes just stop, why we burn out.
And we need to talk about academic burnout specifically, because it's a bit different from just feeling tired from a job.
I think most people hear burnout and just think it means I'm really stressed and tired. But it's more than that, isn't it?
It's much deeper. It's a chronic condition. We're drawing here from the work of Christina Maslach, who developed this three-dimensional theory of burnout.
Okay.
She defined it as a psychological syndrome that happens in these high-demand environments. And it's especially common for students who are also, say, working as interns or juggling a job.
And what are those three dimensions? How would you know if you're experiencing it?
Okay, so the first and most well-known dimension is emotional exhaustion.
That sounds like what it is, just being drained.
It's feeling completely and utterly drained, depleted, like
Yeah.
your emotional, physical batteries are at zero, and you have nothing left to give,
Just running on empty all the time.
constantly. The second dimension is depersonalization, and this one can be really surprising to people.
What does that mean?
It's when you start to feel cynical and detached from your work. You develop this cold, negative attitude towards your studies or your classmates or even your teachers.
So you don't just feel tired, you actually stop caring.
You stop caring. You mentally check out. The work becomes just a task to get through, an object with no meaning behind it. You feel emotionally distant from it all.
That's scary. And what's the third one?
The third is a reduced sense of personal accomplishment. This is where you start to feel like you're failing, like you're not competent.
Even if you are actually still doing okay?
Even then, it's a deep feeling of inadequacy. You lose faith in your own abilities, you doubt yourself constantly, and you feel like nothing you do is good enough.
So it's this toxic mix of exhaustion, cynicism, and self-doubt.
Exactly. And our sources looked at the real-life experiences of college interns who are going through this.
And what did they report? What were the actual symptoms they felt every day?
Well, a huge one was just a total loss of motivation and engagement. They use really strong emotional language like, I feel numb, or I lost my composure and just snapped at someone for no reason.
So it affects your relationships too.
Big time. And it has major cognitive effects. It wasn't just their emotions. Their ability to think was suffering.
How so?
They reported reduced creativity. The stress was so constant that they couldn't think outside the box or solve problems effectively. Their minds would wander all the time in class.
And they'd probably make more mistakes.
They made more mistakes, which then fed into that feeling of reduced accomplishment, which made the stress even worse. It's a vicious cycle.
And this state of burnout actually changes the type of goals we set for ourselves, doesn't it?
It does. It pushes us towards something called work avoidance goals.
Which sounds like a goal to avoid work.
That's exactly what it is. Your main intention becomes minimizing your effort. You're not trying to learn or master the material anymore. You're just trying to do the absolute bare minimum to pass or to avoid getting in trouble.
Your goal is just get this over with so I can rest.
Right. And when that's your goal, you're obviously not going to use effective learning strategies that require effort. So you learn less, you feel even more inadequate, and the burnout gets deeper. It's a spiral.
It's a genuine downward spiral. Okay, so this brings us to the antidote, the cure for this.
And it's something that so many of us feel intensely guilty about.
Rest?
We have to talk about rest. And specifically, we have to fight back against this hustle culture mentality.
That voice in your head that says, if you're resting, you're lazy, or if I'm not working, I'm wasting time.
We have to shut that voice down because scientifically, it's just wrong. Rest is not the opposite of work. Rest is the partner of work. It is what sustains productivity.
How does that work in the brain?
Well, when you're focusing hard on something, you get something called directed attention fatigue. Your brain literally gets tired of focusing.
And your executive functions start to decline.
Exactly. That's a part of your brain that handles planning, decision-making, and focus. So forcing yourself to push through when you're already exhausted is actually just inefficient. You'll do worse work, and it will take you longer.
And your brain is actually doing important work when you're resting, right? It's not just off.
It is so active. We know from neuroscience that during these periods of rest, your brain is busy consolidating memory.
So it's taking what you just learned and filing it away properly.
Yes. It's also enabling self-reflection and doing future planning. It's sorting through experiences and preparing you for what's next.
So that 20-minute walk where I'm just staring at the trees, that's actually a critical part of my learning process.
It's an active investment in your cognitive resources, which is why we need to practice intentional rest.
What's the difference between intentional rest and just stopping work?
Intentional rest isn't just the absence of work, it is the active process of restoration. It means you choose to do something that recharges you. Maybe it's 5 minutes of deep breathing. Maybe it's setting a hard boundary like, I will not check emails after 6 p.m.
So it's a strategic choice.
It's the ultimate strategic use of your time, because without it, everything else falls apart.
Okay, so we have the how with tiny habits and Pomodoro. We have the sustainability with intentional rest. Now we need the why and the where too.
Yeah.
We need to talk about setting the right kinds of goals.
Exactly. It's not enough to just work hard. You have to be working hard on the right things for the right reasons.
And for this, we can turn to goal-setting theory.
A huge field of research pioneered by Locke and Latham. And it's very clear. Goals only work to boost your performance if they have certain qualities.
Let's start with the most basic one, the opposite of, I want to improve my English.
The first quality is specificity. Your goal has to be super clear and measurable. Improve my English is a vague wish.
So what's a specific goal?
Learn 10 new vocabulary words related to cooking by the end of this week. That's specific. You know exactly what success looks like. It gives your brain a clear target.
Okay, so be specific. What's the next quality?
Challenge. The goal has to be difficult enough to make you stretch, to push you just beyond what you've done before.
The sweet spot. Not so easy that you're bored, but not so hard that you just give up.
Exactly. A challenging goal makes you try harder and be more resourceful, gets you engaged.
And the third quality is about timing, right?
It is. It's proximity. Humans are not very good at staying motivated for goals that are years away.
Like, become fluent in 5 years. That's too far away to motivate me today.
It is. So you need proximal goals, short-term goals, stepping stones.
So this week, I will have one 10-minute conversation in English.
Perfect. That proximal goal gives you a win this week, which boosts your motivation and keeps you moving toward that big, long-term, distal goal of fluency.
This is why good language classes have weekly quizzes or small projects. They're creating those proximal goals for you.
That's exactly what they're doing. But traditional goal setting isn't the only way to think about this. There are other kinds of goals that can be even more powerful.
Right. The sources talked about a really interesting one, which is about who you're competing against.
Yes, the idea of personal best PB goals.
So instead of comparing myself to the other students in my class,
Which can be really discouraging if you're struggling.
I only compare myself to myself from yesterday.
Exactly. The focus is entirely internal. Your goal is simply to do better than your own previous best performance.
So if last week I learned 7 new words, my PB goal for this week is to learn 8.
That's the metric. And the research shows this is so good for building engagement and self-efficacy.
What's self-efficacy?
It's that core belief in your own ability to succeed. It's that feeling of, I can do this. And PB goals are a fantastic way to build that belief, one small improvement at a time.
I love that. Okay, what's another type of goal we should think about?
We also need to consider social goals, because we don't learn in a bubble. We're surrounded by other people.
And they can be a source of motivation.
A huge source. This can be about helping others, like a pro-social goal to help a classmate who's struggling. Or it can be about meeting social expectations.
Like, for a lot of learners, especially from more collectivist cultures, the pressure from family is massive.
It's a huge driver, and it can be very adaptive. A student whose goal is to succeed in order to bring honor to their family or please their parents can be incredibly motivated and persistent.
So it's not always a bad thing.
Not at all. Sometimes that sense of social responsibility can be an even stronger motivator than a personal achievement goal, especially when things get tough.
This is all getting quite complex. There's the what of the goal and now the why.
And that brings us to the most powerful model of all, the goal complex approach.
Okay.
This is where we connect the specific lower order goal, like finishing your homework, to the higher order goal, which is the why.
Yeah.
The deep reason you're doing it.
And understanding that why is absolutely critical.
It is the most important thing for your long-term success and your well-being. Because we have to know if we are pursuing a goal for autonomous reasons or for controlled reasons.
Okay, let's break that down. That sounds super important. What are autonomous reasons?
Autonomous reasons are when you pursue a goal because you genuinely want to. It comes from inside you. It's driven by your interest, your enjoyment, or because it aligns with your values and your identity. You own the goal.
It feels like a choice.
It is a choice, a
Okay.
free choice. Now, controlled reasons are the opposite.
So that's when you feel like you have to do it.
Exactly. You're doing it because of external pressure, to avoid guilt or shame or punishment. You feel compelled. You're being controlled by the goal.
Wow. Okay, so two people could be studying for the exact same exam, putting in the exact same hours.
But their internal experience, their why, could be completely different. And that changes everything.
Let's use the example from the research to make this really clear.
Okay, so imagine two students, let's call them Stella and Alice. They're both trying to get their B2 English certificate.
Same goal.
Same lower order goal. But when you ask Stella why, she says, because I just love the feeling of connecting with people in a new language, and I want the personal satisfaction of mastering a difficult skill.
Okay, so that sounds very autonomous. It's coming from her interests and values.
Totally.
Wow.
Now, you ask Alice why, and she says, because I have to. My boss is pressuring me, and I want to avoid disappointing my parents.
Ooh, that's controlled. All external pressure and avoidance of negative feelings.
Right. And the goal complex approach predicts that Stella is not only more likely to succeed.
She'll probably enjoy the process more and be more creative.
Exactly. But crucially, she will also have much, much better psychological well-being. Alice, who's driven by fear and guilt, is on a fast track to stress and burnout, even if she passes the exam.
So the lesson for all of us is to constantly check in with our why.
Yes. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I want to grow or because I feel like I have to avoid failing? And if the answer is have to, you need to find a way to reconnect with an autonomous reason.
That's a game changer. Okay, we have all the components. Let's pull this all together into a holistic action plan for someone listening right now.
Let's do it. A 4-step plan. Step 1 has to be about the feeling of it all. We have to make English fun.
If it feels like a punishment, your brain is just going to find ways to avoid it. Procrastination is a defense mechanism.
Absolutely. So you have to re-engineer the process to be enjoyable. Turn it into a game, not a chore.
And how do you do that?
You link it to things you already love. If you love music, don't just study vocabulary. Print out the lyrics to your favorite English song, find the words you don't know, and sing along loudly.
That's fun. And it's also a great learning activity.
Right. If you love watching shows, fine, watch them. But do it with English subtitles and make a game of pausing once per episode to look up a new phrase.
It's that shift in intention. The sources made a great point about this. If you are actively learning new phrases while you watch, you are growing. You're not just passively consuming.
Intentionality changes everything. Okay, step 2 is about balancing how you learn, understanding the difference between active versus passive study.
Passive study is the easy part, right? The input.
It is, and it's necessary. Listening to a podcast in the car, watching a movie,
Yeah.
that's all passive study. It gives you exposure to the language.
But it doesn't make things stick.
No. For that, you need the hard part. Active study. This requires effort. It requires struggle.
The struggle is where the learning happens.
That's where the neural pathways get built. Active study is when you force your brain to retrieve and use the information. That struggle to remember a word is what makes you remember it next time.
So what are some good examples of active, effortful study?
Okay, so you've forgotten a word. Instead of immediately looking it up, try to explain what you mean using other English words you know. Force yourself to find another way.
That's a great one.
Another one from the sources I loved was a personal rule. You're only allowed to look up a word in the dictionary after you've seen it 3 separate times.
Oh, I like that. It forces you to pay attention to context and repetition.
It does. Other things are like writing a short journal entry every day in English, even if it's full of mistakes. The act of producing the language is what matters. It's that deliberate effort that leads to fluency.
Okay, so make it fun and make it active. Step 3 is about how to keep going when it gets tough. We need celebration and support systems.
Yes, especially when you start to feel those early signs of burnout. The research is clear. Active coping strategies like making a plan or talking to someone are much better than evasive ones, like pretending the problem doesn't exist.
You have to face it, and a huge part of staying consistent is feeling good about your effort.
This goes right back to B.J. Fogg in the idea of celebration. He calls it creating shine.
Shine.
You have to create a positive emotion immediately after you do your tiny habit. That's what wires it into your brain.
So a reward at the end of the week isn't good enough.
No, that's not a reward. It's an incentive. It's too far away. The brain needs the positive feedback right now.
So what does a celebration look like? It sounds kind of really.
It can be super simple. It's not a big party. After you do your one flashcard, you can just have a little internal thought. Yes,
Yeah.
I did it. Or a tiny fist pump. Or just say good job to yourself.
Anything that creates a little spark of positive feeling.
A spark of pride and success. That feeling is what makes the habit automatic. It's way more powerful than willpower.
Okay, and the final part of this step. You can't do it alone.
No one can. Social support is non-negotiable. Having friends, family, or a peer group who understand what you're going through is critical.
It helps you feel like you're not the only one struggling.
It gives you emotional relief and a sense of belonging. A strong support system is what allows you to be resilient and keep going through the hard times.
Okay, that's a really solid, holistic plan.
I think so. So let's bring this all home. Let's summarize the absolute key takeaways from this whole deep dive.
Let's do it. So, tip 1, make a tiny plan. Stop saying, I'll improve my English, and start saying, I will learn 3 new words today. Be specific.
Tip 2, use your pocket time. Hunt for those little 5-minute gaps in your day. Collect those time coins and spend them on a micro-learning task instead of letting social media steal them.
Tip 3, make English fun. Find a way to connect your learning to something you already love, whether it's music, movies, or games. Turn the chore into a joy.
Tip 4, protect your focus. When you have a bigger block of time, use a technique like Pomodoro. And to get started, use the tiny habits formula. Make the first step so easy you can't say no.
And maybe the most important one of all, tip 5. Remember that intentional rest is not wasting time. It is a crucial part of the learning process. You are actively recharging your brain.
And on that note, all of you just invested this time with us. You made a choice to listen and learn, which is a perfect example of investing your time instead of wasting it.
So true. Now, we always like to leave you with a final thought to think about, a provocative question.
We talked a lot about the power of autonomous goals doing something because it aligns with who you are and what you love.
So here's the question for you. What is one of your big, long-term language learning goals? And what is the deep, internal, autonomous why that you can connect to it starting today to fuel you when things get hard?
And with that, we have a quick micro challenge for you. Do this today. Choose one existing daily habit, your anchor. Brushing your teeth, making coffee, whatever.
And attach one tiny 5-minute pocket time learning activity to it. After I put my shoes on to leave the house, I will listen to one short English news summary.
Make that one tiny change and see what happens.
And if this deep dive was helpful, please share it with a friend who needs to hear it.
And don't forget to subscribe to English Unlimited podcast for more episodes just like this.
I'm Charlie. See you next time.
And I'm Jamie. Bye.